Hello folks, Papa Top 912 coming at you today with another one of our famous recipes. And the recipe for today is braised oxtails. Now this is a meal that we don't eat a lot. We probably eat it 4 or 5, maybe 6 times a year. But it's a special occasion meal, and today is Easter Sunday. Easter Sunday 2020. And we're locked in the house under this coronavirus quarantine. So what better way to enjoy Easter than to go ahead and make up a nice pot of braised oxtails. So I'm going to go over the menu here. I'll go over the list of ingredients, and then we'll talk a little bit about the dish. But we'll start here with the fresh vegetables. I have 1 large bulb of shallot, 1 whole thing of garlic here, 1, I call this a small. This is an orange bell pepper. You can use orange, green, red, whichever one you got. I just happen to have a multicolored pack, so I'm using orange today. And then I got 1 pack of these green onions. So those are gonna be my fresh ingredients. And I'm just gonna chop those up moderately fine, not too fine, but just moderately. And then we have some cream of mushroom soup, red pepper flakes, black pepper, Worcestershire sauce, secret ingredient. This is my grandma's secret right here, y'all. Please don't tell her that I told y'all this. But it's this Lipton onion soup mix, beefy onion flavor right there. That's the secret ingredient. And then I add a little mushrooms to mine when I cook mine. Now, mushrooms don't really hold good in the refrigerator, so normally you just want to get mushrooms, buy them when you want to eat them. But sometimes, anytime I'm making a gravy, I like to have a mushroom style gravy. So I keep these dry mushrooms here on deck, and they're pretty good. This was just a gourmet blend that I got from Costco. You can see I'm about halfway done with it now. But all you have to do is just soak those in water and rehydrate them. So I already got 5 cups of those mushrooms rehydrating off camera. And you go ahead and take those. You're supposed to wash them, soak them in water for about 30 minutes, and then put them in boiling water for 5 minutes, and then they're ready to go. But since I'm going to be braising these oxtails, I skipped the 5-minute boil because they're going to be boiling for 2.5 to 3 hours. So they're still going to get nice and tender. They're already tender now because they soaked up the water, but they do get more tender when you boil them in that warm water. So that's just a little trick you can do if you want to just have some quick mushrooms on your meals when you're at home. If you're making those 30-minute meals, just go ahead and soak those, and then you can just add them to your dishes at the end. But I do that instead of the fresh mushrooms. I like fresh mushrooms better, but like I say, you just don't really have those on deck. And I actually use all of my fresh mushrooms making escargot. So, whole nother story. Anyway, the star of the show is oxtails. And you want to get a decent quality oxtail. And oxtails themselves come in 3 sizes pretty much. You get your larger size, then you get medium size, then you get those little knuckles. Those knuckles are sweet meat, man. You can suck on those knuckles, suck that meat right off of them. But also, you want to get an oxtail that doesn't have a lot of fat on them. I'll show you this better when I take them out the pack and rinse them off. But those are pretty good. They got just a thin layer of fat on the outside. Sometimes you can find oxtails in the store. They'll have like this much fat on them. And you got to trim all of that off when you're cooking. So you don't want to buy the oxtails with that fat on it because you're just paying for the fat. Even if you have to pay a little bit more for the trimmed up ones, that's what I like to do. And this is right around 5 pounds of oxtails right here. If you can half this recipe, but that's only gonna give you 1 meal. So I like to do at least this much so we can eat twice off of the pot. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and wash up the meat and cut up the vegetables, and we're gonna move over to the stove, and I'll show you how to get this pot started. And as you can also see, all I really have up here is just salt and pepper. I do that intentionally to just use those 2 kind of base ingredients when I'm starting. I'll go ahead and cook them in that for about 2 hours. And then we'll come back and we'll flavor that pot. In that last 30 minutes to an hour while those oxtails are cooking, all those other flavors will blend into the dish. I just do this right here as my base layer to get some flavor down to the bone, and then we add on the other flavors in the end. So anyway, stop my rambling, wash off this meat, see y'all over at the stove. All right, guys, welcome back. We have made it over to the stove, and I got my nice big stainless steel pot that I like to cook my stews and soups in. And I'm just gonna, right now, I'm gonna take a little bit of avocado oil because it has a super high smoke point. And I'm gonna put that avocado oil in the bottom, and my flame is on high, but not as high as it'll go. Because what I wanna do is, I wanna braise these oxtails, or just go ahead and brown them. And then I'll use that same oil that's in the bottom to saute the vegetables. And then we'll start building on our flavors and our layers and get this thing working. So I'm gonna go ahead and start putting some of these oxtails in, and I'll show you the different sizes that I was talking about previously. You wanna get that pot hot too. Smoke point hot, but not smoking. Got my Big Daddy tongs here, so I can get all down in that pot. But I like to rinse my oxtails off, because when they're cutting these oxtails, they'll get like a little bone debris that'll kind of lay on the meat. So you want to make sure you rinse all that off. It's just the bone where they're cutting it with that circular saw. But all right, you hear that? The oil's hot in there. So we're gonna just go ahead and put some of these oxtails. I don't overcrowd the pot. And we'll just lay them in. And you want to get them brown on all sides. Now when you stick them in here, they're gonna stick to the pot. Just don't worry about that. Once they start cooking up, they will release from the pot. All right, so if you remember what I was telling y'all, oxtails come in like 3 different sizes. This is your large ones. These knuckles here are the medium ones, and then you get the really little ones. You're gonna always get that as a variety pack in your oxtails, unless you pay like an extreme amount of money to just get like all the large ones or all the medium ones. Because, you know, the oxtail is just the tail of the cow. It's thick at the base, but then it slenders down as you get towards the tip. So they kind of just put the whole tail in there. That's why you get so many different sizes inside of your packaging. But again, these are cooking off really nicely. I got my heat on about half. I just take my time when I'm browning them, because I don't want to burn this oil that's in the bottom. And you can see there's a little bit of, you know, where the meat's been caramelized and sticking to the pan a little bit, but that's not burnt. I'm going to use the same oil drippings to saute off my vegetables. If you turn up your heat too high, this oil will have a tendency to want to burn. Or as I like to call it at this point, this is beef tallow really. And that's going to burn. So just kind of keep your flame on medium and cook them slowly. And these 5 in the back, I started those first. So you can see they're a little more, you know, doner than these are. These here still have 2 more sides to go. These are ready to go. Whenever I take those out, then I put another batch in. So I kind of rotate my pot, where I'm always having 2 different batches inside of the pot. And I always start off with just a little bit in the beginning, so they have enough space so they can breathe and sear and not start to like release too much water and tend to boil. You want to make sure you get a good sear on the meat. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish off these oxtails searing. Then we'll get to the vegetables, and then we'll load everything in this pot, get it seasoned up, and just let it do its magic. So I'll check in with you guys in a little while. All right, guys, welcome back. So I can show you real quick. This is I call that a perfect plate of browned off oxtails right there. And here's the pot. You can see it didn't burn. And I also want to show y'all how much oil. See how much tallow came out of all those oxtails? That's another good thing about braised or, you know, browning off your oxtails. You get a lot of that fat out of there. Elsewise, you would just cook this without doing that. You're going to have that much fat in your pot. And then that fat will just raise to the top. You can skim it off the top. But I just don't like to have all that in there to start with. So now I'm just going to pour a little bit of this back into the pan. About that much right there. And I'm going to go ahead and put my vegetables in. So, just gonna put those vegetables in there. And we just wanna saute those down till they start releasing their sugars and getting translucent. As you can see, I don't have a lot of oil in there because I don't want a lot of oil. I don't want my stock to be greasy. So we're gonna let those cook down and be back in a couple minutes. We'll move on to the next step. At this point here, it's all downhill from here. The longest part is just browning off those oxtails. After that, the pot just takes care of itself. All right, y'all. So it's been about 3-4 minutes. You can see here now, all of that beef that was stuck to the pan, it's done deglazed itself with the sugars and stuff out of these vegetables. They sweat it down a little bit. They're tender, but they're not caramelized. That's about what I was looking for there. So now, we're gonna go ahead and start adding in the other ingredients. So, here's 1 bag of that Lipton onion soup mix. You're gonna need 2 bags. If you're gonna do 1 pack of oxtails, 1 bag will be enough. So you just use 2 bags or that 1 box of Lipton onion soup mix. So we got that going in. And then I'm just gonna put some shakes. There's no real measurement here. That felt like about 20 shakes of that Worcestershire sauce.
Like 15 to 20 minutes. Sometimes they have specific stuff they want them to do. They don't know, watch a video and then do that. Or
now I'm going to go ahead and put in the cream of mushroom. Alright. There's always a little bit left in the can. Just run you a little bit of hot water in there, just a little bit, and that'll dissolve the rest of that cream of mushroom and get it out of there. Now, the last thing to put in here is the mushroom along with that jus that they've been sitting in. So all that liquid from those mushrooms, that's like a broth. Just mushroom flavored broth though, because there's no salt or anything in there. Now at this point right here, you can taste this for the salt and pepper. Oh, actually, I didn't even put the pepper in there yet. My bad. Red pepper flakes. That's a good bit right there. And then black pepper. Just stir that in. And then we'll taste this broth. So taste it now. Oh God, people. Ooh, if you want to talk about perfection, that thing there is perfect right now. A little bit of heat, a little bit of salt, not too much. The Worcestershire adds a little pinch of sweetness to it. Everything is just perfect right now. So don't need to do nothing else except for take these oxtails and just drop them into this pan. So gonna take these oxtails and just drop them in, and then we'll add water as needed to cover them. All right. So you see here, don't need much liquid, but I'm gonna put about 2 cans worth of liquid in here, because what you want to have those oxtails to be covered so that they can now stew down. And I'm gonna turn my heat up just until my pot starts to boil. As soon as it boils, I'm gonna turn that heat back to medium, just so to have a little simmer in it. Put the lid on it and do not touch it for the next 2 hours. After those 2 hours, we'll open it up. Then we'll add in the extra seasonings that we need, and then check it for tenderness. I'm thinking these are gonna have to go about 3 hours or so for tenderness, but every pot is a little bit different, so you just have to go with it. And you just want it to go to the point where when you stick the fork in it, the meat will pull away from the bone. So that's what we're going for. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and take this creamy mushroom can, put a little bit of hot water in it to get the rest of that flavor out of there. And I'm gonna put 2 cans of this water in here, and I'm just gonna cover this over and let it go for the next 2 hours non-stop. All right, folks, welcome back. So you can see here it's been right around 2 hours, and these mushrooms are nice and tender now, and this meat has been balling off, but it's still not ready yet. Let me show you what I'm saying. If I take this fork and I just try to stick it into the meat, see it's about ready to pull from the bone, but not ready yet, because that was still some force to get it to pull. So we're right where we want to be now. I'll have Mama get us a spoon. Grab us a spoon real quick, Mama, a little spoon. We're going to just go ahead and taste this gravy now, and we're going to add in the extra ingredients that we need to flavor this pot. But you can see it's got a nice thick gravy in there already. I mean, it's not super thick, but it's nice and kind of pasty. So I like that consistency. So I can taste the pepper, taste a little bit of salt on the front end. We'll have Mama taste it. We're definitely gonna put some more salt in it, but not too much. Start off with just a little bit of accent, because that's gonna pull the salt and pepper together right there. Before I put any more salt, I want to go ahead and put that accent in there. An accent is not a seasoning, people, it's a flavor enhancer. So I use it to supplement. I never season my pot with it, but I just use it to kind of fix it up, to pull the salt and pepper together. Sometimes when you're cooking, if you kind of have a strong salt and a strong pepper taste, but they don't actually blend together, get yourself a little bit of accent and put it in there and see if that don't do the trick for you. All right, taste that now. A little bit of accent goes a long way too. Mm-hmm. What you think, Mama? It's coming together.
Better.
All right. So now I'm just gonna take a little shake of this Italian seasoning. And then I'm just gonna get just a little bit. This is a coarse pink Himalayan sea salt. And lastly, if I can find it in my cabinet here, I'm gonna put a little more cayenne pepper. Alright. I know y'all done told y'all before, but this Kroger cayenne is like Hades. So be real careful with that one. I don't know why it's so much stronger than that McCormick. But it will set you ablaze, I'm telling you. I'm telling you what I know. So I'm gonna mix this in. Then I'm gonna add one of my favorites. I just live by this sweet Hungarian paprika. Now we're gonna mix this in. We'll taste it one more again. Let mama see what she say. Come tell me what you think, girl.
That's good.
So we're gonna chill right there with the seasonings, y'all. Keep it on this very low simmer. Just that right there. And just cover it up and let it cook down for about another hour. And that meat gonna be ready to fall off them bones. In the meanwhile, we're gonna go ahead and get the rest of these pots going on the stove now. Got a couple other dishes that we want to throw together. And they'll all come together right around the same time. So, see y'all back in an hour. All right, y'all. Papa Top 912 coming back to wrap up this oxtail video. So, since we last spoke, it's been about 45 more minutes. And you can see that gravy is nice and thick in there. And that's from that cream of mushroom soup. And a little bit of that gelatin that done come out of those oxtails while they were breaking down. Now, if you remember last time when I stuck the fork in it, it had a little, it wasn't tender. But watch this. See that right there? See how that meat just come right off the bone? And that is 0 force. I'm telling you, a baby in the womb could take that and eat it right at birth. That's how soft and tasty it is. So I'm going to go ahead and break off a little piece right here. And I'm going to let Mama Top go ahead and taste it. Tell me what we're working with.
That's good.
They can't hear that. Tell these people what we're working with.
It's very delicious.
Thank y'all. How about that tenderness?
Very tender.
Like a baby bottom?
I remember eating his bottom before, but
So anyway, y'all.
smoothie.
If you got right here, if you taste it and you still want to add a little something, you can still add a little more seasoning to your pot right now because it's going to just sit here and simmer for the next 30 minutes while I turned the fire off now, but it's still going to just sit there and seep while the rest of the dinner is getting done. I got some rutabagas over going on in this pot right here. And then we're about to make us a little peach cobbler. Got the rice going. Was going to do some macaroni and cheese, but we're going to go ahead and nix that. Eat that later in the week. Mama said, that's too much food. So I said, okay, you win. Anyway, that's about the end of the oxtail video right there. So that's how you braise oxtails and make them fork tender and delicious. And I will put a picture up on this in the end once we get it on the plate. Got over a bed of nice brown jasmine rice. And we're going to ladle that gravy on and put one of them big bones right in the middle of it. And I'll take a picture of that for you. But this is the end of the recipe. Papa Top 912 and
Mama Top 912
signing off.